The surveyor in front glanced back towards Tompkins, who had been talking to him moments before, to find that he had suddenly and inexplicably gone. Even stranger was he was wearing clothes that weren't his. He had a strange bag of maps, running shoes, and glasses with him that he didn't recognise. Cappy firmly instructed the boy to defecate on a piece of paper, and when he refused, she became increasingly agitated and repeatedly asked him to do so. When he was initially questioned, he claimed that the only memory he had was being dropped off by a big red truck in Sacramento, after which he had felt compelled to go get a haircut and then buy a phone and call his wife. Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. We are the SteegCast. My name's Tom. I'm going to be a host today. My cat is ripping my earbuds out. Hope you're all doing well. To my sides here, I think, or maybe to down there somewhere, is Rich and Burra. Hope they can say hi. Are the mics working?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
1, 2, check.
Check. How are you guys doing? Everything going all right?
All good, man. Yeah.
Not too
Nice.
bad, but not too bad.
Nice. As you can see, we're missing a member of the cast today, and I think this one's actually going up late as well. I can only apologise for the lateness there, the tardiness. Some things have cropped up.
Your son.
Yeah.
Some technical issues that we had to sort out.
We can't really blame it on COVID anymore, so we'll blame it on Putin instead, I think.
Yeah.
Anyone been up to anything then besides watching the news and
Me
all
and
this?
Rich have been very busy with our musical endeavours recently, haven't we? I know that
We have.
that's been something we've been working on.
Our band, led by Lions, went into the recording studio this month, or February, to record some tracks, and this is the first time in 7 years, 8 years? 8 years it would be now.
8 possibly, yeah.
Yeah, 8 years that we've been in the studio.
And our first with our new vocalist Liam as well.
Yeah, and we had the
Sounded
first
great, by the way.
track. We had the first track back the other day, and had to listen to it, and it's great. Like it's probably one of my favorite, well, probably the best sounding songs I've ever recorded in a band, I think.
When can we
It's
hear
safe
it?
to say. We're hoping in the next month or two that we're going to get them out.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll do a video and whatnot and things as well. And
Yeah, I'm sure people will mind if you share it on the SteegCast channel, like so the viewers can have a listen.
Yeah.
More than happy to give that a shot. Anything else been going on, or has it just been consumed by music, which isn't too bad?
not
Pretty
much
much.
going on really.
Went to a couple of gigs for a change for the first time in
Yeah.
forever.
Any good
You go
ones?
to gigs like for a friend.
I saw I saw Funeral for a Friend last night. Was it the night before? Possibly. Last night? No.
I
I
went to
don't
see
know.
Film for a Friend last week, at the beginning of their tour. And then I was a week or so earlier, me and Gareth, we went to Pale Waves in Cardiff.
Hill Waves is another
That was
one,
that was a different gig. It's not a gig we
Um,
normally go to, but
Pale
going to
Waves.
see,
They sound quite from the name. I'm picking up like an indie experimental kind of ish
Yeah.
band.
yeah, you kind of along the right lines. They're from Manchester. I think they were originally sort of like new wave, weren't they? But they've veered more
started
into
off as quite indie, yeah.
but they veered into more Avril Lavigne territory now, I think.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to see a flock of seagulls on the 16th. The classic 80s band Flock of Seagulls I'm going to see on the 16th.
Fucking hell. Lining up the Beach Boys next to you, son. You got a full holiday there. Huh? That cat. What's that cat's name?
Yoshi.
Yoshi.
Yoshi or Yoshi or Yoshi.
It depends how anybody wants to pronounce it. Is it a correct way? Don't know if it's a correct way to pronounce
That's the
it.
best answer to that. How do you pronounce your name? Oh, if you want to, really.
Well, it's like my surname. My surname can be pronounced Burrow or Burra, depending on people's sort of preference.
What about
UK
Baruff?
residents.
What about Baruff? Baruff. Does it ever get pronounced Baruff?
Burra. That's why I said Burra.
Baruff.
But with an F on the end.
Baruff. Yeah, it has been pronounced Baruff. Yeah, it has. when I've dealt with certain companies and things like that, it has been pronounced Barack. Yeah, absolutely has.
Yeah. Well, it's like my name, innit? I know all about the plight of people mispronouncing my surname. Even
You've probably had Merrick,
Mayrick. Myrick is how I pronounce it.
Yeah.
Merrick and Mayrick are the two, especially Mayrick. Mayrick is a popular one.
I think even I call you Mayrick. I apologise, son. I didn't
Loads.
realise.
Absolutely.
Like 15 years later, I've just
realised I didn't.
All of like, there's a lot of my friends that still do it as well, and it's kind of gone over my head now. But yeah, it happens. I remember correcting my English teacher in school once, and she sent me out.
Yeah.
I got sent out once for the teacher kept saying questions. Have we said this? I think we have said this before. Got sent out of class. Mental.
Repeating ourselves here on the SteegCast.
You can tell how much that's haunted me. I was like 2 when that happened. So you guys might be wondering why I'm in a cave. I'm pretty much on the hunt for the missing 411. What are the missing 411, you ask? I'm glad you asked. I'll tell you in a bit. No, calm down. Fucking hell.
What's the missing 411, Sam?
So essentially, before we jump into that, this is a very brief overview of an introduction, if you will, to the missing 411. Kind of a beginner's guide, you know, the ins and outs, the ABCs. So first thing I'm going to do is kind of describe the guy that come up with it, really, the concept of it. His name's David Paulides. His background there, so he spent 20 years on the police force in various roles, such as like detective. He was on patrol divisions and SWAT teams as well, and on the street crimes unit.
Is this US, son?
US, all US. This is at the moment. There are kind of UK similar ones, which may come into a cast later, but this is all primarily US driven at the moment.
Yeah.
If you don't mind that is that okay?
No, I was just wondering if this fella's background was US or so.
Oh God, yeah, he's like as an American as they come. Like if you see him, he's yeah, very
He's got a pet eagle and everything.
Yeah. Oh man, Peacemaker is so good.
Oh, I haven't watched. Was that a reference that I completely accidentally made?
Got a pet eagle.
Okay, I haven't got round to it yet, so I will get round to it, but I haven't watched it yet. So.
Spoiler alert! Sorry, pal. But yeah, now David Politis kind of left the crime fighting behind, I guess, and he's now more of an investigator and a writer, primarily known for his works on the Missing 411 series. But before we jump into that, I will preface this cast by saying that David Paulides has come under a lot of criticism recently for allegedly embellishing some parts of these stories to make them even kind of stranger than they are. But the final story that I'm going to share has interviews online with the actual person that it happened to, and it corroborates the story there. I think Mr. Philippidis, who's different to David Paulides, very similar sounding names, but he seems genuine when giving the interviews. But, you know, you can look them up on YouTube for yourself and decide for yourselves. We'll go into more information on that later on. But a lot of criticism for David Paulides, the writer of The Missing 411, appears to come from some of the like pro-Trump statements and people seeming to want to kind of bury his work for his political views. These are things that do happen in this day and age, but I'd like to kind of steer away from that at the moment if you guys are cool with that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. But as for the other stories I'm going to tell, you'll have to just research yourself there if you want additional information. I'm just going to relay what the Missing 411 cases say about them. I'm not going to put my own spin on it. I'm just going to say what the Missing 411 says about them. So, why is it called Missing 411? Any of you guys want to kind of hazard a guess?
At first I thought it could have been a specific number of people recorded as missing so far.
That's what I thought.
Or
it
maybe
was first off,
a number of people within a certain time frame or event, perhaps.
I would have thought it would have been like a date or something. That's normally what Americans do, isn't it?
Oh, there's a fair guess. Yeah. I thought the same as Burrow, like at the start where it was 411 people go missing, but in America, 411 is the phone code where if you dial it, it takes you something similar to the operator in the UK, giving you like information about requested phone numbers, generally branded as the information line, and outdated slang as well in America for wanting more information on something. It's like, oh, what's the 411 on that like? So technically,
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
That's
That
it.
makes sense now. It's all clicked in my head.
so missing 411 technically means missing information,
Ah.
which I thought when I looked at it, like it happened to you, and it was like
Yeah.
all the cogs kind of turning in. So the 411 on the 411. Missing 411, there are a series of books bringing to light the disappearances where all might not be as it kind of seems in official reports. The majority of these disappearances are from places like, as Burrow said, in America, they're in national parks. And if you've seen a map of the national parks, you think, there's no shit that someone could go missing there. I'm sure Richard can overlay a nice map of Yosemite or something. But they're fucking huge, like. But these cases, they're extra curious, and some are just downright baffling. David Paulides has attributed a lot of these disappearances to unspecified or unknown causes, leaving a lot of them open-ended and open to speculation, which is why I thought it'd just be perfect for the cast. What I'm planning on doing is kind of just reading through a couple of the 411 cases, and we can just discuss kind of what we think really happened during that time. That's why I was hoping for Sean was here as well, because he's kind of grounded in logic. Sean is.
Ironically, Sean is missing right now.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like.
Sean is the missing 411. 412,
that.
as Barrow said earlier.
Yeah, 412.
But Politis, he's got like certain criteria as to what meets the missing 411. It's not just random people going missing. He's got like a specific profile for the cases that he would consider to be included within the 411. I've got a big list here of what they include. Like a criteria, that's the one, yeah. So animal predation would be excluded. So any kind of involvement with bears or wolves or that would kind of be discredited just left out. Any mental illness associated with a person, or if they've ever threatened to commit suicide, then they wouldn't qualify either. Canine units, when they can't pick up the scent, that's when it kind of piques his interest a bit, where these trained dogs that have been trained for years and years and years, and multiple of these like bloodhound kind of dogs, where they just can't pick up the scent there, that's when he knows he's onto something. And also when professional trackers' trails go cold, or there's just straight up no tracks to follow. Changing weather is apparently a pretty big one. I can't understand why he kind of classes this as criteria, but changing weather, either associated with a missing person or at the start of the search and rescue. I guess
it would be because of like snow, for example, and rain. I know from when I remember when I had my car stolen, they couldn't take fingerprints on the door because it had been raining.
Okay.
So it's probably just stuff like that.
I suppose that kind of matches up with the tracks as well, with the tracking of the dogs.
Some things are considered an act of God as well. I know from like sort of like insurance type of things, certain weather would be classed as an act of God, as the saying goes. True enough.
But the other one then, the other couple, if the person is found, they're often found in an area that has been previously searched, sometimes as much as 7 or 8 times. So a highly trafficked area. And then all of a sudden, someone just appears there, and no one knows how. The missing people are found with clothing removed or shoes removed. The average time of disappearance is 4 p.m., which is I found quite funny. Like 4 p.m., which is a weird daylight. Yeah, that's it. You'd expect them to be more in the nighttime, but as you said, broad daylight. The missing persons, when they're found, they often have a lack of memory, don't remember how they got lost or what predated them being lost, or even how they got found in some cases. They're often found near water or like just lakes, usually, or boulder fields. I don't think we have boulder fields over here, do we?
Do I know what a boulder field is? Explain to me a boulder field.
A field of boulders.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's literally just like a standard like field you see over here.
Is it like the Nevada desert? Like... You got loads of rocks and...
Not even that. It's like just full-on crammed boulder fields. I'll send you a picture and we'll overlay it on this.
Sort of like some of island scenery is very sort of,
I suppose. And... Yeah, similar too.
Oh, so just like a mountainside, basically.
A mountainside just covered in boulders, or like bold... it's hard to explain without seeing it. But the point of separation would be the next one. So if a group of hikers separates there, so say us lot went out hiking and we just like, I'm going to go for a piss there, then it's as if the missing person that went for a piss just disappears. That there's no track of or sight of them walking away or running away. They're just gone. The distance travelled is a big one. So young kids travelling impossible distances in the night that are not even hardened like survival men could follow when trying to recreate the path. Sometimes like 8 to 12 miles that children have travelled within
scary,
like 8 hours. That's it, on rough mountains and like dense woodlands as well. So like tough terrain to cross. Equipment malfunction, so aeroplane crashes within the area, whether like sometimes a compass, he pulls it out and it's just spinning round, so like magnetic interference, I guess. If the person is found deceased, the coroner can't determine the cause of death. And the last one would be a geographical cluster. So what that means is essentially just a certain point on a map where there's like a hotbed of disappearances that are happening, and apparently there are 62 clusters within North America, the largest cluster being Yosemite National Park. 62.
Bloody hell.
Shit,
So
it's crazy.
would an example of one of them be the Bermuda Triangle then?
Yeah, actually. Apparently there's a similar Bermuda Triangle in Yosemite Park and a few other places. But that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
You got me thinking I might want to research the Bermuda Triangle a bit more.
Yeah, I was just going to say that could be a future topic within itself.
Yeah,
right there.
could be.
That's fascinating, always fascinating. So that could be one to pencil in sometime.
Yeah.
I always think of the episode of Scooby Doo when they're on a cruise ship and they go through the Bermuda Triangle, and when they go through the triangle, the ship that they're on just turns into this massive monster ship, and everyone turns into a monster. It's like, what the hell's going on now?
Classic Scoob.
Yeah.
Too many Scooby snacks as well.
Tripping balls. So they are.
So if anyone listening has any opinions on these following stories, please let us know in the comments below. Some of them are quite similar to the Dyatlov Pass incident, which we covered on our Unsolved Mysteries episode, the first Unsolved Mysteries. If you enjoyed this episode, please go check that out. It should be in the videos. Did we do a video of that
We can
one?
pop a link in.
Yeah, there's no video for the Dyatlov Pass one, I don't think. But we can pop a link in below to that in the description.
Cool. So it was really interesting.
That was during the audio only days.
yeah. Way back before COVID.
Aye.
Good Lord. So viewer beware. Viewer discretion is advised. Some of these cases don't always have a happy ending. I'm not going to go into too much graphic detail, but just sometimes people die. Like it's going to happen. So right. Anyone want to jump in with anything before we dive into the stories?
I'll jump in, man.
No, I'm fully engaged here. I'm enjoying. I'm very much enjoying the experience, because this is something that I really don't know anything about.
Yeah, same. It's a learning experience.
Definitely, yeah.
No, that's what I'm hoping.
I'm reading. Yeah, it's great. Like.
So the first one we're going to dive into is a guy called Christopher Tompkins. And this one is credited. I'll give full credits after the stories of each one I read here. So the day of January the 25th, 2002 started off like any other day for 20-year-old Christopher Tompkins. He got up, said goodbye to his mother, who he lived with there. He left for his job as a surveyor at 8 to 10 a.m. in the morning. Tompkins met up with 3 other members of his 4-man surveyor team, and they went about their daily routine of surveyor work at the expanse of a lightly wooded area off Country Line Road near Highway 85 in Ellerslie, Georgia. The team moved as a unit there, so each man was spaced about 50 feet apart in a line as they walked their way in the same direction through the forest. So each person could see the person in front of them, essentially. So Tompkins, who was the last in line, was keeping regular communication with the others, and he had the man in front of him, they were within eyesight of each other. They also had radios, I'm reasonably sure. But at one point, the surveyor in front glanced back towards Tompkins, who had been talking to him moments before, to find that he had suddenly and inexplicably gone. It didn't make any sense, because the man had just been there several seconds before, but now there was nothing, and no way that he could have gone without being seen. The surveyor called the others, and they searched the area, but what they found only made things kind of weirder. Nearby was one of Christopher's work boots hanging from a barbed wire fence that stretched through the area, with no sign of the other boot. In a patch of grass next to the boot, where tipped out, were his work tools, blue fibre from his work pants, and 12 cents. That's American money for...
Money, cash.
So that was it, and it seemed that Christopher Tompkins had simply just blinked out of existence there. It would not be until 1 p.m, after 4 hours after the disappearance there, that one of the other surveyors would finally call to the boss to say that Christopher had vanished, and oddly enough, the missing man's own mother would not know about the incident until 4:15 p.m. Even after she was informed, they even waited 24 hours to inform the police to do anything. And when the authorities finally stepped in, they were not able to find any additional clues as to what happened to him. A more extensive search was then launched after the police kind of hit a dead end, but nothing was turned up until months later, when the missing work boot, they found the one on the barbed wire, but the other one there, was found by chance on a private property of a man who lived 900 yards from where Christopher had gone missing. How did this man just go missing in practically the blink of an eye in full view, only to leave behind just one boot with all the coins on the ground? Was it possible that he was, maybe lifted up and turned upside down? Because how else would those coins fall out of his trousers?
Yeah.
It's mad, but where could he have gotten so fast as well, where nobody could find him when they realised he's gone missing? And why were there no other signs of anywhere? What happened to Christopher Tompkins? What do you reckon went on you? That's it though, he's not been found.
He's still missing.
Just gone.
So it was 2002, was it you said, was it?
Yes, I think it was. Let me check. 25th of January.
He's still missing as of March 2022. That's insane.
Yeah, isn't it? As mobile phones, were they a thing back then? How old was I?
They were.
Would they? Can I just ask Tom? And it's okay if you don't know the particular answer, but is there a certain amount of time gone missing where they sort of they can or indeed will perhaps pronounce that person dead, or is that? I don't think they can do that. I think it's Terry Pratchett said, missing, presumed dead, I guess. But presumed dead, is it?
I don't think without definitive proof you can really class someone as dead.
No, that's it, isn't it? It's just a strange one. It's a strange one. For example, the guitarist from the Manic Street Preachers is a very notable missing person. Richie Edwards, I believe his name was, wasn't it?
I don't know anything about that.
He's still missing. I'm not sure if they did actually sort of declare him deceased, though. I can't really remember that. But that's a local missing person story, at least. And if anyone does want to look into one point, there's the missing former, obviously now guitarist of Manic Street Preachers story. I think he was last seen on somebody of the Bristol channel somewhere.
Oh, aye. Well, same kind of thing. His body was never discovered.
Body never discovered, or any trace of. Apparently, sightings were seen of him in India and places like that. But yeah, there's nothing concrete, and he's still missing. His family still gets royalties though, from the records, I believe, and all that, and he still gets money from things he do. Is obviously his family do or whatever. But yeah, that's a very notable person. When it came to the top of my head, that's all.
As far as this story goes, I have no idea. So there was no blood or anything.
No blood. The weird thing is that no one heard him. If he was in distress, say a bear come along and took him off, you'd hear that.
And there'd be traces of that as well.
Exactly. There'd be
I'm leaning towards he was physically lifted off the ground by something.
It does. I mean, with the content of his pockets on the floor, I can't explain it. I don't want to.
Do you know when you say fragments of his pants? We mean pants as in trousers. Jeans.
Trousers, yeah.
Yeah, American pants.
Yeah, not like underpants. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing there were fragments of his ripped trousers, or whatever. Then.
Perhaps. But his boot come off and was found where he disappeared from, or on the barbed wire fence nearby, and then that must mean he must have traversed this distance, 900 yards. I know it's not much, but with only one boot. Why would you just decide to do that one day?
Do you think it was possible something flung him through the air, or
could have something could have, as you said, lifted him up, tipped him upside down, and carried him somewhere?
Are there often thoughts or links perhaps to extraterrestrial activity within this?
I bet there are. There are.
David Politis doesn't necessarily say what he thinks happened to them, but he kind of alludes to it, and I don't want to I'll get into that towards the end.
No problem.
Yeah, I don't want to muddy the waters, as they say.
No, muddy waters.
But that right up there with Christopher Tompkins, that was credited to mysteriousuniverse.org. I appreciate them doing that, and I had a little look around that website. It's really good. Suggest if anyone's bored.
Are there sort of any theories perhaps that someone has come up with in relation to this Christopher story?
A couple which are prominent throughout the Missing 411. Okay. The first one being, because I've looked into this probably a little bit more than you guys. The first one being, and I hate to say this, but Bigfoot.
Okay.
I hate to say it. Yeah. So there's the cryptid kind of element of it. Then there's, as you said, the UFO, the paranormal kind of elephant element, and there's just the kind of human element then where he just snapped and just went off. All of these stories kind of revolve around one of those three things happening, which I suppose in life is you can say that for anything in life.
What about the coming together of two separate universes where they cross over and then he disappears within the two?
Yeah, that's another one.
Parallel dimensions is also brought up.
It's quite possibly into some sort of portal or vortex. Is that the word? Some sort of. If
there's ever
Stargate
gateway,
there's the good example of this is the TV show Fringe, and I can't recommend that show enough. It's quite old now. It's oh god, it's getting on now. It's about 13 years old at this point. But there's an episode of that where two parallel dimensions clash, and there's a guy. I'm sure I've mentioned this before. A guy who's in who's dead on the floor, and they find him. He says, "Tell my family, I love him," or whatever, and he dies. But when they actually checked his prints or whatever, he lived alone. He's never had any family whatsoever. But then when they eventually go to the other universe, he lived a completely different life to that, and he had a family and all that stuff. But his two beings basically came together and meshed.
Well, that's how he died.
Yeah.
Oh, rough.
Yeah.
That's rough.
But yeah, that show was great. That's the sort of show that would tie in with this sort of stuff,
But
yeah, this not to say I believe in parallel dimensions and clashing together.
But it's fun to entertain, isn't it?
It is. It's
fun to entertain. I'm currently watching Twin Peaks, rewatching it, and oh my god, what a show! I'm telling you guys, stick with it.
Twin Peaks
really good.
Is something we were going to discuss at one point. I think it probably will happen when Sean's back and things. And yeah, I believe that was on a future upcoming.
I hope so. I really hope so, because
Spoiler
there's so
alert.
much to dive into in that. Yeah. Right. In that case, I'll just plow on with the next one. So what I've done is I've selected I've tried to pick very different stories. So the first one I started with was kind of bare bones. Someone goes missing and nobody knows. These next ones get a little bit more strange, right? Just to prepare you. But on the morning of
strange.
We can do strange. So we got Stephen Kubacki, his name is.
Oh, what a name.
Yeah, class. On the morning of February the 20th, 1978, near Lake Michigan. Michigan.
Honestly, that name, you could swap it around and say something completely different with it. Sorry, go on.
Right, so on the morning of February the 20th, 1978, near Lake Michigan, student Stephen Kubacki would venture out to indulge in several hours of skiing. However, when he hadn't returned the following day, a huge search was set into motion. Strangely and ominously, though, footprints were discovered in a location where the student claimed to be heading, and what's more, they stopped right at the frozen water's edge. There was no sign of any markings on the frozen surface of the water, and no sign that the ice had been broken anywhere. Later that day, Stephen's skis and backpack were discovered. However, no other sign of Stephen came to light. The searches were eventually called off, and his family, while not giving up hope, they did, prepare for the worst, as imagine you would. Then, 14 months later, in early May 1979, Stephen would appear out of the blue on his parents' doorstep. He had very little memory of where he had been. He had awoken earlier that day in a field in Pittsfield. 720 miles from where he discovered, and around 64 kilometers, which is 40 miles, from the family home. Even stranger was he was wearing clothes that weren't his. He had a strange bag of maps, running shoes, and glasses with him that he didn't recognize. And that is essentially it. But after that kind of ordeal happened to him, he was already, a clever guy. He had a degree in linguistics already before he went missing. But he was so fascinated by his own case that he went on to earn a PhD in psychology. He wanted answers about his own disappearance, kind of researching himself in a way there, and yet he still really couldn't crack the case there. Solving the mystery of his own missing has become like an obsession, and he went on to publish a book called Meta Mathematical Foundations of Existence, Gödel, Quantum, God and Beyond.
Jesus, what a title.
Yeah.
He sounds a very, very intelligent man, though, in fairness.
That's it. And in that book, guess what he writes about?
Mission 411.
The possibilities of alternate universes.
Oh, okay.
Chances, like.
Okay.
But that one is mad, like no idea how he got there. 720 miles from where he disappeared. 720 miles. Like, that's a long distance.
Yeah, and like the footsteps stopped at the lake.
Yeah, right at the water's edge. 14 months later as well. Like, this one leans more, I'd say personally, if we were entertaining things there, it would lean more towards like the UFO side of things to me.
I'm saying airlifted again. I'm saying airlifted. Beamed, airlifted.
It does, yeah. It's like Flight of the Navigator stuff. He's living with the aliens for a while.
I wonder if he ever showed signs of being bipolar.
Well, that was one of the prerequisites, wasn't it, for Paulides, if he had any kind of mental illness or suicidal tendencies.
Yeah.
But I mean, he could have struggled with it internally and never expressed it to anyone, I guess. But this one, very peculiar.
It is a weird one. I don't know what the explanation is, because he was found with like a bag of maps.
Even stranger, he was wearing clothes that weren't his. He had a strange bag of maps, running shoes, and glasses with him that he didn't recognise. The glasses gets me.
So it tells me that when he was gone, he was talking to people. Because he'd have to get clothes from somewhere. He'd have to get those glasses from somewhere.
True.
So I wonder, it'd be very interesting if like one day someone recognised him and he calls him a completely different name.
Yeah.
And then, they just randomly comes across him. And like, to do that, you would kind of have to get a radius of where you were, I guess, found, or where he thought he woke up from. And then just do like a big radius around that and see if anyone recognised him. I wonder if he probably did something like that. He sounds like an intelligent guy, but
could the maps link into perhaps he was trying to find his way home, or people were helping him find his way home?
It could have been, but I mean, there would have been easier ways home, like than
this would have been sort of like internet sort of maps and
oh yeah, 1978, 79.
Exactly, yeah. So it's very possible that he gathered these maps and materials from somewhere, or had help gathering such materials and things from along the way.
You could have even stole them from hikers, I guess, or borrowed them from hikers.
So, did he have his wallet and stuff on him when he went missing, or was that found in the?
Stephen's skis and backpack were discovered. However, no other sign of Kubacki came to light. Doesn't say. But that's a good point there. If he had cash on him, then it'd make the journey a bit easier.
Yeah.
720 miles, 14 months. It's possible he could walk that distance in that time, I guess.
Yeah. That's like Forrest Gump levels, though, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Especially from
the sake of it, like.
Yeah.
Considering he was skiing as well, I bet the terrain where he started weren't the best, like.
And, ski shoes or the boots you wear to go into skis, they're not just normal boots.
The ones that clip, is it?
Yeah. But I wonder if it probably has, but possession. Has that been another reason for?
It's not been brought up in what I've seen, but I mean, it does make sense. You know, the amnesia and the kind of out of character personality traits, I guess.
Yeah, because like if you, based on shows I've watched, like Supernatural, when a person gets possessed, they kind of just like lose what they're doing, and they're just literally a vessel. And I don't think they can see what's happening anyway. But yeah. Yeah,
that's it. Just like just driven to this spot. But
yeah.
What does science say on all this though? Like, what have science said on it then? Logical science and.
Well, he was a PhD in psychology himself.
Well, this is it, isn't it? I don't know.
He must be incredibly grounded though, because like a lot of people that would go missing and came up found with that level of weirdness would probably just be scarred for life and be useless. But he's managed to like pick his life back up and, you know, make something of it.
Top-selling book, I imagine, as well, is it? A good seller?
I'm not too sure on that one, but I do know that he kind of shut himself away from the media. Like he didn't want to make money off that in that way, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an interesting one that I thought. Anyway, sources for this one are listverse.com, obviously the Missing 411 books, and this one's a good one, www.top10s.net. But no, all these are verified Missing 411 stories, just that was the easiest place to kind of strip it from, to be honest.
Yeah.
The next one got a bit of a spin on it. This one, when I was reading it, I thought I'd put it in because it's quite entertaining, but I don't know if it really meets the criteria. But let's dive into it anyway. But the next one, as I said, that it's out there even by the Missing 411 standards. But on October the 1st, 2010, so what's that, 12 years ago?
We're getting closer.
That's it. 3.5-year-old John Doe, they call this one, so this is like an anon, pretty much. And his relatives.
Name, isn't it?
That's it, yeah, it's like anonymous. Him and his relatives, though, 3.5 years old this kid was, they were camping by a popular fishing location near Mount Shasta, I'm not sure of that one, but around 6 p.m, the child's parents realised that their son had suddenly gone missing. According to Mr. Doe, his youngster there, he was there 1 second, just gone the next. They scoured the area that he'd been last seen in like a panic-stricken horror, but they just couldn't find anything. After hours of feverishly searching for the little boy, he had still not turned up. Now desperate, the distraught father decided to call local police deputies and the Forest Service, the US Forest Service. Rescue personnel combed the forest well into the night, and yet there was no sign of the toddler. 5 hours after John had disappeared, authorities found him laid down in a bush directly next to the trail that had been previously searched. He appeared to be dazed and in like a semi-conscious state. Mr. and Mrs. Doe attributed his exhaustion and they attributed his state to exhaustion, I should say, and were simply grateful that their little one had returned physically unharmed. Medical staff gave the full clearance, so the freshly reunited family were permitted to return home, and everyone's lives quickly just turned back to normal. They kind of forgot about the whole situation there. But only a few weeks later, the small boy would share a disturbing tale about his terrifying ordeal, really. John Doe, he disappeared in the Mount Shasta area of California. One day, John's grandmother, Kathy, who, they nickname her Cappy, was playing with her grandson. Suddenly, he looked towards her and said that he didn't like the other grandmother, Cappy. Confused, she asked him what did he mean by this. But John, he explained that while he was lost in the woods, as best as he could, 3.5-year-old, but he had been taken deep inside a mountainside cave by a woman he thought that was his grandmother Cappy. She led him into a cool, dark, spider-infested room with motionless humanoid robots. Scattered across the floor were dusty purses, guns, and various types of other weapons. As John anxiously faced his grandparent, he noted that there was like an eerie, radiant light coming from her head. In this moment that he realised that she was not his real grandmother. Cappy firmly instructed the boy to defecate on a piece of paper, and when he refused, she became increasingly agitated and repeatedly asked him to do so. Eventually, the grandmother look-alike, she succumbed to the frustration and moved on to a different topic. Allegedly, she informed She informed John that he had been planted in his mother's womb and was actually from outer space. Shortly after this extraordinary account, she took the boy back outside to the thicket and advised him to wait for help, where he was found later on. Supposedly, John was brought deep inside the underground cave system where he saw dirty persons and guns. Upon hearing the disturbing story, an outraged Kathy called her son and demanded to know, what he was allowing his grandchild to watch on TV. Where did he come up with these stupid fantastical stories and these ideas for this story? But Mr. Joe lamented that he had heard the identical recollection only a few days prior. Initially, the two chalked it up to the overactive imagination of a kid. Yet the more Kathy thought about it, the more John's story did kind of perplex her. What kind of TV show would feature some of those crazy topics that the boy described? And even more chilling was the idea that she might have some kind of doppelganger, assuming her identity in order to kind of abduct innocent victims, which is crazy in itself. With those particular thoughts in mind, Kathy decided to share a haunting experience of her own. So only a year before this, she had gone camping on a camping trip within close proximity to where John's ordeal occurred. In the morning, she walked face down in the dirt. Somehow she had been unexplained and removed from her sleeping bag within her tent and transferred to a short distance away. Upon waking, she felt an intense pain in the back of her neck. 2 puncture wounds were present, and the surrounding skin was red and inflamed. Another friend who accompanied her on the excursion there suffered matching afflictions, so puncture wounds in the back of the neck, and the pair originally attributed these injuries to a possible spider bite. The only thing Kathy remembered about the ordeal was glowing red eyes peering through the darkness. Both Kathy and her travel companion became violently ill. In fact, she was so sick that she couldn't even muster the strength to pack up her things. Her mind raced as she desperately tried to recall what happened only mere hours ago. But the only thing surfaced was the glowing red eyes that she could remember. So while she was drifting into slumber, she remembered seeing several creatures gazing through the darkness. At the time, she assumed that they were produced by a herd of deer, but now she's starting to kind of double guess herself, I guess. But following the traumatizing outing, Kathy felt completely drained of her creativity and emotions. Several months would pass before she felt like her old self again, and admittedly, Grandma Cappy would have dismissed her episode had John not come forward with his first-hand encounter. Legends and lore pertaining to Mount Shasta, I cannot pronounce that, have existed throughout the centuries. Indigenous Wendigo, yeah, that's it. Indigenous tribespeople chronicled the fallen race of prehistoric giants that were said to inhabit the region. Others claim to have known as the Lumerians used local caves as entrances to underground crystalline cities called Telos. Some allege a large energetic vortex is present within the territory. In modern times, there are many UFO and Bigfoot sightings reported within that area too. Each year, 26,000 visitors flock to the revered mountain from countries across the globe. There's been an alarming high number of curious missing person cases within the picturesque terrain. Whilst John Doe's incident seems unbelievable, it's important to consider the odd history and happenings afflicting the area. An open mind may be the only thing to finally resolve this age-old mystery. That one's mental. I know that one's mental.
It's far too much to take in, but that's insane. All that is insane. I can't even process that.
That should be like a plot to a film.
Could definitely be a film. So essentially, 3.5-year-old kid gets lured into a cave by a robot doppelganger grandmother. Gets asked to shit on a bit of paper.
my sort of pick apart of that though is how sort of that story, how was a sort of 3-year-old child able to sort of transcribe it to that level of what's going on there?
Yeah, I completely get that. In the source that I got it from, which is called downthesupacabra.com, check it out. From that site, it did say that the kid was speaking in
3-year-old
3-year-old language, baby talk, yeah. And I don't know, but apparently he showed, he told the same tale to his father as well as the grandmother, but
you'd be surprised at what you can how much a 3-year-old can actually take in and tell you.
I don't really know any 3-year-olds. How developed are 3-year-olds? Are they able to have a conversation like that?
Well, my niece is 3 now, and she's able to have a conversation. It's not like an intricate conversation, maybe stretch the imagination, but like it's, you know, she knows a lot of words, and she's able to like recall. She recalled something the other day in the car that happened ages. Oh, it was a year ago when my sister drove a car into a puddle and she got stuck in the puddle and she ruined the car and I had to go up and pull her out, and she was recalling that, and we were like, how the hell do you remember that?
Oh, she was like 2 at the time that happened.
Yeah,
that's mental.
my mother reckons it's going to be one of her earliest memories now, getting pulled out of a puddle.
Car in the puddle. Is she happy with that incident, or was it kind of one of those traumatizing ones?
No, she's fine with it.
Nice, that's good.
But that's what I mean. That sort of stuff, and she was able to describe what happened. So, not to say that like the detail you went into in that is how she described it, but they probably, you know, gathered as much as well as the grandmother's story. They probably put 2 and 2 together on that one. I would think, but. Yeah, that's wild. That's
strange.
That's
like
wild.
It got a little bit weird around the time of the pooing on the paper.
Isn't it? Like, what is that about?
That's where it got a bit weird there.
Why would perhaps the robot runs on biofuel or something? God, yeah, that one kind of just spun me out. I was like, what am I reading at that point? Like, as I said though, I'm just repeating what I've read myself. Whether I believe this stuff, neither here nor there. Right, so on that note, I'll just march on to the final story. This one's actually my favourite one so far. There are thousands and thousands of these missing 411 cases, by the way. This is a very very slight amount that I picked out. I've only got 4, but thousands and thousands of them out there for you if you get bored one day. But the next one is another skier called Danny Phillipidis.
These names, man, they just pick them. They really do pick them, don't they?
It's very close to actually
the other one.
David Paulides. Yeah, Danny Phillipidis. David Paulides. Oh, bit of a burp there. Too much chicken, I tell you. So skier Danny Phillipidis there. The whole very strange tale that begins in February the 7th, 2018. When 49-year-old firefighter from Toronto, Canada, by the name of Konstantinos Danny Philippidis, was on a skiing trip to Whiteface Mountain near Lake Placid in New York State. Philippidis was an experienced and avid seasonal skier, and went on this trip, so very familiar with his surroundings there, went on this trip every year with his co-workers. On this day, most of his friends had stopped skiing at around 2:30 p.m, but Philippidis, he decided to stay out for a couple more runs there. At some point it was noted that the firefighter was nowhere to be seen, although his skis, boots, passport, identification and car, they were all left behind, seemingly abandoned without any reason. A massive search then, as soon as this was discovered, was all put together. That found no sign of the missing man, and by massive search I'm talking like, you know, the local law enforcement, actual trained people that are trained, you know, specifically for hunting, well, not hunting people, but finding people. But no sign was turned up there. And this search would quickly grow into the hundreds of officials from several agencies, professional searchers and volunteers who scouted the area for 6 days using helicopters, drones and dogs, and any means at their disposal. At no point did the search party turn up any sign of Philippidis. Despite the fact that there was heavy snow at the time, it was deemed that he could not have possibly gotten far, you know, trudging in that snow. In addition, the slopes that he was skiing on, they were very crowded that day, yet no one had seemed to have remembered seeing the missing man or have any idea where he could have gone further in the mystery. Considering that there was no reason why the man would want to run off, authorities began to assume the worst, and it was whispered that he could have died out there in the wilderness, his body still waiting in the frigid cold to be found. The search was called off, and Philippidis' family and 2 children were left to wonder what kind of horrible fate had befallen him. It was a tense time overshadowed by a sinister cloud of certainty that he was never really coming back. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, Philippidis' wife got a groggy call from a disoriented man who sounded remarkably like her husband, and when he used a nickname that only those 2 knew, she was convinced that it was him. The strange part of the call is that it was coming from over 2,500 miles away. clear from the other side of the country at Sacramento in California. The call was traced to a rental car area of Sacramento International Airport, and it was deemed by authorities that he seemed to be in trouble, with Sergeant Scott Swisher of the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department saying, on our end as well, it left a lot of unanswered questions. It was apparent that there was a lot of issues going on with the gentleman, very disorientated, obviously needing some medical assistance. It was thought that he might have been with a kidnapper, but police were able to locate the missing man, and they found him alone, still in his ski clothes and cognizant, albeit in a state of dazed confusion. It was soon found that he had actually purchased an iPhone for the purpose of calling his wife, and that he had gotten a haircut. How mad's that, when he was initially questioned, he claimed that the only memory he had was being dropped off by a big red truck in Sacramento, after which he had felt compelled to go get a haircut and then buy a phone and call his wife. As to how he arrived in Sacramento, a full country away from where he had begun his journey, he had no memory, nor did he have the slightest of ideas of who it was that dropped him off. He was unable to describe the truck, or give an estimate as to where or when he was picked up. Additionally, no one in the area of the ski resort remembered seeing a big red truck at this time. The missing man was very cooperative during questioning and let authorities look at his bank and cell phone records, as well as his medical history, but none of these offered any clue as to what happened to him and offered up no suspicious activity. He was also found to have all of his cash and belongings, suggested that he had not been robbed, and although he claimed to feel that he had sustained a severe head injury, there was no physical evidence that anything was wrong with him. Clearly not an injury grievous enough to cause such an intense memory loss. There was also no history of mental disturbance or psychological problems. He was, by all accounts, a loving family man who was dedicated to the fire department, where he had worked for decades. It was all a complete mystery as how he had gone to New York to Sacramento and New York State. The police major John H. Tibbets Jr. called the whole thing a head scratcher. Very articulate. Philippidis continued to maintain there. He still continues to this day to maintain the idea that he had no idea how he ended up in Sacramento. He insisted he had no memory at all of the circumstances as to how he arrived there or of the journey itself, and the only clue being that he vaguely remembers being dropped off by that big red truck. But that's it. Making things even more difficult is that all appeals to the public and widespread distribution of his photos looking for anyone who might have seen him along the route or even on Sacramento, they've turned up nothing. Major John H. Tibbets Jr. Said of the case there that he ended up on the side of the road. The only one they've got there is the Route 86, just passes through. They don't have a lot of intense traffic coming up 86. Perhaps an independent trucker offered a ride. He can't describe the trucker or the truck or anyone. It may be a mystery. I don't want to say it's a cold case. It was a missing person case. We found him. Technically, he found himself. He wants to find out where he was as badly as we want to find out where he was. If we could have somebody called that, we could actually have proof that they met Danny on the journey across country. It would be a tremendous help. That's pretty much Danny's story. There are interviews of Danny online there, and he seems really genuine within it. He's just a down-to-earth guy by the looks of things, and he goes through the story from start to finish as much as he can remember, at least. Not that is much, but what was it? 2,500 miles across country, still wearing the same clothes. Bought an iPhone, got a haircut, didn't know where he was. Any ideas on this one?
No. That's a baffling one, man.
And it just claims he had...
Other than the truck driver, perhaps, who would have hitched a ride with, would have some recollection of this.
That's it, but nobody has seen the truck. Nobody knows what the truck driver looks like. No trucks apparently go up at that ski resort, and there's only one road through Sacramento, which is Route 86, and nobody saw that. There's not a lot of heavy traffic coming.
Did anyone see him get off the truck?
No, apparently nobody saw him the entire time that he disappeared, apart from when he pulled out his iPhone and called for help.
Jeez.
2,500 miles away, same clothes, haircut.
Yeah, the haircut, the first
Haircut.
thing, you know.
I gotta go to California to get a haircut.
I know, right? Mental, like, but he said his head was hurting, like he had an injury, but medical reports turned up that he didn't really sustain anything that would result in such like an amnesia episode. I don't know. I don't know on this one. I mean, again, alien abduction springs to mind. If we're talking paranormal again, that springs to mind in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would certainly be a theory.
Yeah.
Just imagine an alien just like, dropping him off, going, "You need a haircut."
Perhaps like the alien give him a haircut to like fiddle around inside his brain, and that's why he had the amnesia and the bad head. And
yeah,
I don't know, grasping.
Hey, it could be demon possession, but
he could easily be demon possession.
Could have been possessed by a demon that needed to get to California
for that haircut.
Or the demon left his body like before he got a haircut, but before he left his body, he was just like, "Yeah, you need a haircut." Like, it's not looking good. Like,
or perhaps the demon just thought it'd be a laugh to get him a shit haircut. And like as soon as he got the haircut, he left his body. He was like, "Ah, you got shit hair."
What a
incredible opinions.
What a wally.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I want to credit that one to yet again, mysteriousuniverse.org. Again, they're really good. I think they've got a YouTube channel as well as a pretty extensive blog, on all things kind of cryptid, alien, anything paranormal. Really good website if you're into that kind of stuff. So there we have it though. 4 weird stories in their own right, and there are thousands more just like them. Explanations range from rational theories like amnesia or animal attacks to the paranormal, cryptid, aliens, or vortex into parallel worlds, as you mentioned there. One theory to me that seems to make sense there for myself at least is that if you cross-reference a map of the cave systems in the regions where people commonly go missing, so one of these clusters, for example, you'll find that there may be like an overlay of locations of some of these disappearances. So there could be some sort of gas within a cave system which induces amnesia effects, leaving victims in like a disoriented state, or these people that go completely missing could just fall into the cave systems, never to be found. But that said, there are some of these stories reported where 2-year-old children can cover 2 kilometers within 1 hour, or tell fantastical stories when later found. So I don't know.
It's mad.
Not to say that, no.
I don't know.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I know obviously Missing 411 is American. Do you know of the similar stories or the similar, what would be acronym? Is it an acronym?
Yeah, any British sort of example.
For like Britain or for any other country really?
Around there's a lot of strange drownings in the UK. Not so much missing people, but very strange drownings where people just turn up in the water, like just under weird circumstances. And I haven't looked into it too much, to be honest, because this one's kind of caught my eye lately. But I probably will look into it a bit more. Seen a few videos on it. People just like, leave a pub or leave like hanging out with mates, and then they just found face down in a river. Like it could just be drunken idiocy, I guess. I don't want to call the dead idiocy, but could just be that. But it's worth looking into. Definitely worth looking into.
So I imagine a country like Australia probably has something similar. It seems like a country that would have it because it's got like a lot of forests and woods and stuff like that.
A lot of other shit that wants to kill you.
A lot of others that want to kill you. Yeah, I imagine they would have a good thing, and maybe parts of Central Europe as well might be. No doubt Africa's got some as well. Probably a lot in Africa.
Thing with Australia is people live on the outskirts, don't they? They don't really live in the centre. That's interesting, right? Not sure if David Philippidis has. I don't know if he's actually written any books outside of the US at the moment. I think he's still building up books now at the moment. Like, he's still researching, and like professionals call him in, like police call him in to research this stuff. And as I said, he never gives his idea of conclusions. He always leaves it open-ended. which I appreciate. Even if he does allude to or tailor the story to seem like aliens or Bigfoot or whatever, or robot nannies. Aliens.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting though. These sort of things are great, and they're always like, it was the same sort of thing with Gareth's last episode, the UFO ones. You always find there's TV shows, and my nan used to watch these shows all the time on the History Channel, and the channels that are at the bottom of the all channels part of Sky, where you could go past sci-fi, and then it's okay, here's the weird channels, and then that's where you get all these sort of stories of missing people and UFOs and paranormal and all that stuff. It's just so interesting. It's just, and like you said, there's thousands of them, so there's no end, and there's still more happening every year. So.
There were some that I'd written up that I'd taken out of this script as well. One about father and kid. They're with a scout group. Forgive me if I butcher this one, but they go out into the mountains there. They walk in for miles and miles, across boulder paths and boulder fields even, and they're about 100 feet away from where the scout group set up camp, and they're fishing in a lake, and the kid falls into the lake there. He says he's fine, he continues fishing, and then about an hour later, he's like, I'm a bit cold, I'm just going to go back to camp. So the father's like, all right, no worries. The father could hear the camp from where they were fishing. So, he's like, oh, the kid's fine, sent the kid off on his way back to camp. And within those, 100 feet from the fishing place to the camp, where he could hear the people, all laughing and around the fire, the kid had just gone missing. And there was 30 people, campers included, fathers and sons, scouts. I don't know too much about scouts, but I imagine they are pretty outdoorsy. They all split up looking for this kid, and the only thing that was found was one wet sock. Nothing else was found. It's just, I don't know. It's just baffling. A lot of these cases are. It's fascinated to me for the last couple of months. There's a really good YouTuber called Mr. Ballen, actually, that I get this from. He's in an argument with David at the moment, actually, misinforming one guy. Because David gets about 200,000 views on his videos, and Mr. Ballen gets 1 million plus. But Mr. Ballen, top fucking notch storyteller. Get on it. That kind of wraps it up, though, or should I say, leaves it open-ended?
Yeah.
Open-ended, certainly. Yeah, it'd be interesting for people to get involved and let us know what they think about all these topics we discussed.
Or
if there's some other good stories about we may have missed of things. But it's fascinating. All of it is very fascinating.
And some if there's any from around the world that we don't know about. I imagine China's got loads as well. Thinking about it, they must have tons. Yeah,
I think next up for me, I think maybe. I'm not going to say definite, but maybe this Skinwalker Ranch, I might finally knock that one out.
Yeah.
So got that one, script half done for that, might get that one done. Bermuda Triangle, though. I like the sound of that.
That'd be a good one, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's fascinating as well.
Yeah. It's just turned into the kind of mystery, paranormal kind of season, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
Season-wise, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's actually going to do it from us, unless you guys got anything else to add?
No, not particularly. No, it's been an enjoyable one.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this one. It's great.
I'm glad you've enjoyed. I've enjoyed researching it, to be honest. But everyone take care. Stay safe. Enjoy yourself.
Until next time.
Bye.